All right, everyone, it's time to talk about some polling. Very, very damning polling for the liberals, actually, right now. First and foremost, though, if you're watching this video on YouTube, at the top of the comment section, I'm going to pin a link to my Timcast IRL appearance that I made the other night, the other evening. Had a great time. Thank you to all the people, Tim and everyone else there. I thought it was a great discussion, actually. It was very, very funny. And then in the after show, we had that breaking news about the Fed beheader. I'll have to cover that, I think, in a new tech exclusive, because if I link out some of the links that I've got, YouTube might ban me because of their URL, their linking policy. Anyway, we've got new polls. We've got general election polls, so Trump v. Biden and Trump v. Biden v. everyone else, number one. And we've got battleground state polls, actually, in the wake of New Hampshire's primary results. Donald Trump is absolutely killing it. He never had this kind of advantage in 2016, not by a long sea mile. And 2020, it's like an inversion of 2020. It's like the lead that Biden had in battleground and general polling has been completely inverted, to the point where I'm wondering if Trump might not win the popular vote in 2024, not just win the battleground states, but if nothing else changes, I would expect him to win the popular vote, which he didn't in 2016 or Hong Kong, of course, by a long sea mile again, 2020. We're going to look at these polls. These are Bloomberg and Morning Consult. Now, keep in mind, Bloomberg not necessarily the most amenable to Trumpian-style policies, not exactly a populistic loving outlet. Trump in Arizona, +3. In Georgia, +8. In Michigan, +5, in line with other recent polling. Nevada, +8 again. North Carolina, +10. Pennsylvania, +3. That's going to be a little bit closer than the other states. Wisconsin, +5. Arizona, Trump v. Biden v. Kennedy v. West v. Stein. That's the actual matchup. Somehow Trump fares a little bit better, actually, when you count the third-party candidates. In Arizona, +8. In Georgia, +7, about unchanged. Michigan, +6. Nevada, +12. By the way, Biden coming in at 31 points in Nevada when you count the third-party candidates. I do expect that some of that support closer to the election will be reabsorbed. The problem is that when I look at the differential, it looks like about a 50-50 between the loss of points for Trump and Biden when the third-party candidates are accounted for. So if one of them diminishes, it doesn't necessarily favor either candidate. The gap is almost completely unchanged. The margin is different, but the gap between them is actually about the same. North Carolina, +13. Pennsylvania, again, +3, unchanged. Wisconsin, +8. And then we have general election polling, Trump v. Biden. Again, we have a couple of fairly recent polls in the last few days. Trump's almost at +4 in the aggregate within general election polling. Again, in 2020, there was no point whatsoever in which Trump led in aggregated polling. There were only 3 or 4 polls in the entire general election in which Trump had like a point or two advantage. He never led in the aggregate. At his darkest hour, he was about 12 points behind Biden in the general election polling in 2020. In 2016, when he won, fair and square, of course, the Democrats denied that election. You weren't allowed to deny the 2020 election results on most sites until recently. They decided to back off on that policy because they realized the insurrection argument wasn't really working for them. So now it's just, Orange Man will be a fascist. Okay, we won't retroactively label him one from before, but this time around, we assure you he'll start World War III. Looks like Biden is attempting to preempt him on that one. In 2016, there were a couple of moments in which Trump was ahead in the aggregate by an underwhelming margin. He was never at +4. Not even close. I think the highest he got was like +1.2 or something a couple of times. And even then, there were always polls that showed Hillary Clinton ahead. There was never any point at which he led in every single national matchup poll, let alone when third-party candidates were discussed as well. I'm glad to see, by the way, that polling firms are actually polling for both, whereas they pretty much ignored third-party candidates in the last few elections. They've never really polled for the effects that they would have. And by the way, I'm claiming a righteous victory here. There were even some clankers. Now, I count my audience as very intelligent people. I love you all very much. But there were some clankers when RFK Jr. decided to abscond from the Democratic Party and run as an independent, who swore up and down, oh, Sticks, the rigging is in. This is the death of MAGA. It's the death of Trump. RFK Jr. is clearly going to take more votes from Trump than from Biden. I said, calm the fuck down, don't worry about it, because I don't see that happening. All of the hype about, well, MAGA is flocking to this RFK Jr. dude, I predicted that that wouldn't actually be the case. I was correct. There is effectively no change in the margin between Trump and Biden, with or without the third-party candidates figured in. RFK Jr. effectively takes some of the TDS, but they like populist voters from Trump, and I think more of the Union Dem voters that flocked to Trump in 2016, abandoned him partially in 2020. I think that's one of his main core fan bases, as he does voters that are, rock-ribbed Democrats and or liberals, but simply hate Biden for his fiscal policies, for the border, or they think he's too old, he's incapable of leadership. I happen to agree with them if they surmise that. It is almost dead even. The margin does not change. Part of that is also, they're figuring in Cornel West and Jill Stein. Of course, Cornel West is a leftoid, a socialist. Jill Stein is also a socialist, although she represents an actual political party. So ultimately, there's no change whatsoever. Now, we simply have to wait and see, is Joe Manchin insane enough to throw his hat into the ring? He'd be primarily competing, by the way, with RFK Jr. for the Union Dem vote, more than anything else, which would fuck up the Rust Belt a little bit. Every single national poll, Trump is ahead. Does not matter whether it's a head-to-head matchup or whether third-party candidates are counted in. That's number one. He is now ahead in all of the recent Battleground state polls as well. He has pulled ahead in the aggregate in every competitive state. I'm almost wondering if the trajectory remains roughly the same. So the economy continues to be stupid. The border continues to be open. That's probably assured. Mayorkas is about to get impeached, by the way. And every other problem that Biden has caused continues to metastasize, including foreign policy failures. I mean, you could see another Gulf of Tonkin incident at any time over near Yemen or near Iran now, based on Biden's commentary. If nothing else changes, I'm wondering if Trump won't end up competitive in Virginia and New Hampshire, which would be hilarious. He could expand upon the 2016 map. If the election were held today, I'd get 50-50 odds that he gets more states than he got in 2016. I mean, certainly he would do better in the electoral count, in the popular vote, because, again, he was behind Hillary Clinton. He came in at 2.5 behind her in the final result with regards to the actual outcome in the 2016 election. If we assume that the polls did what they've done before, which is that they weight their samples, at least some polling firms, based on prior results, you would expect them to weight their results based on 2020 and 2016 turnout when the Democrats won the popular vote. If they're adjusting their aggregate in that manner, despite the fact that registered Democrats are now, scarce as hen's teeth effectively in the United States. Nobody wants to be a registered Democrat at this point. The Republicans faring a little bit better. Then I would expect him to gain another point or two on top of the aggregate he's already got. He'd win the popular vote. He'd win every battleground state. He'd have a fighting chance in a couple of states that are effectively written off in general, again, Virginia and New Hampshire being among them. He could crack his way up into the Pacific Northwest, potentially with those numbers. Donald Trump is the leader right now. He is far in the lead. And by the way, the people saying, well, according to this one poll conducted months ago, a lot of Americans would sour on Trump and dislike it if he were found guilty of multiple felonies. Yeah, voters that are reluctant to vote for Trump from the get-go, I think. Voters that are already, if not accounted for, at the very least, they're not already on the Trump train. Yeah, they'll sour on him. It'll turn off some independent voters. I don't think that it'll make a difference in the end. The polling swing that they were talking about, even in that polling, by the way, wouldn't even account for Trump's lead. It wouldn't be enough in several of these states. At the very least, it wouldn't be enough in Georgia. It wouldn't be enough in North Carolina. Probably not enough in Michigan. Well, there's the election. There's the electoral votes that you need right there. You don't even need to win the other states. Donald Trump right now is easily, not only has he clinched the nomination for the GOP, he is by far and away the front runner in the general election, and the primary has just barely begun. I don't think that anything that Joe Biden, by the way, is capable of doing, really policy-wise, can change that metric in any appreciable manner. Okay, the economy cools off a little bit. Huzzah! There's 10 more voters. There's still suffering under Biden-inflation, by the way, because you need a protracted deflationary economy in order to compensate for the differential between wages and the cost of goods and services. Border crisis isn't going to be solved. Biden finally admitting there's a border crisis, again, huzzah, that's perfectly fine. What are you going to do about it? Well, without alienating left-wing voters and driving them to Jill Stein and Cornel West, I don't think there's anything Biden can actually do. Also, there's always the possibility Biden has some sort of fucking health problem before the election. The dude dodders around. He can barely walk. He's constantly incoherent. He goes to the beer factory. He's literally listening for political advice at the beer barrel. It was a very strange moment. If you haven't seen that clip, you should definitely find it. That's about all. Peace out.